Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite cryptos and one of the best cryptos in the entire market for a long-term investment. And we're talking about what is so important for the long term of our blockchain and Web3 space. You can't really look any further than the DeFi category, and the very epicenter or the heart of DeFi has always been Chainlink. Today I have a very important fractal that I wanted to share with you, comparing Chainlink to one of the best performing stocks of the internet bubble, and exactly why I believe that what Chainlink is following is a nearly identical example of one of the most bullish cycles that we've seen in years. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you find any value in this video, please do me a favor, hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. Without further ado, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Now, the other day I was looking at charts and I was looking at Chainlink specifically, and I noticed something very interesting. When I went back and looked at the Amazon cycle from going into the early internet bubble as well as the post-internet bubble, we ended up seeing Chainlink almost following this exact same pattern. And so today I wanted to go through and really map out in all of the details what this fractal means, what it means for Chainlink, and what it also means for the broader market, because this is something that I think is ultimately telling a bigger story of what is going to be taking place this cycle. And I'm excited because Chainlink has been one of my favorite cryptos for a long time. I've really believed in it because of the DeFi space. We know that we need something that's going to be able to connect all of these blockchains together, allow us to be able to share value and transact different information. And now we finally have that with Chainlink. Now, the thing with Chainlink is so many people have kind of looked past it. Many people are ignoring it because it's already had a cycle. Because of the last bull market, many of the coins that had already had prior cycles actually ended up underperforming. And so anybody that was looking at something that had already made a run, already ran really hard into one of the prior cycles, they were kind of overlooking that, kind of sweeping it under the rug because they figured that there was better opportunities out there. But guys, one of the most important things we need to be aware of is this is the first time ever that we've seen true institutional adoption. We've never seen BlackRock, we've never seen Vanguard, we've never seen any of these major institutional corporations coming in and actively accumulating Bitcoin and other crypto assets. This is the first time that we're ever seeing that. So if we're ever talking about what is going to see true adoption, what are the best projects we can look at, in my eyes, you really can't look any further than Chainlink because it really is the backbone of the whole DeFi space. So one of the things I like to go and look at is actually taking a look at how some of those best performing stocks from the internet bubble as well as the post-internet bubble, how they developed, how they performed, and what ended up happening shortly after. So when we're looking over here at the internet bubble itself, this would have been early in the late 90s to the beginning of the early 2000s. And it was right here when we invaded Iraq in the early 2000s that gold broke out, silver broke out. You know, we had a big run inside of some of the commodities. However, all of the risk investments like the NASDAQ and all of those stocks from the S&P 500, they all corrected because this was the very beginning of that first top after we just ran throughout all of the 1970s and the 80s and the 90s. And we were basically at the beginning of a 30-year bull market correction. So that would have been the peak at the internet bubble. We had this big run up and then it started to correct back down. And what we notice here is once we ended up fully retracing that move, Amazon almost fully retraced. It barely held a higher high. But once it held that higher high, we pretty much just slowly worked on a new uptrend. We built our support trend. We made these short-term higher highs. We'd come into resistance and we'd reject, fall back down, retest that trend line again, and kind of do a lot of the same things. Overall, throughout this entire period, all we were really doing was just kind of building this ascending support, right? And this is what we did for pretty much from 2001 all the way over here till 2008. So for about 7 years, Amazon was sitting here consolidating, just building a new uptrend before that next cycle could start. Now, obviously, we're looking at a much different trend with crypto. Crypto is a 24/7 market, so this 7-year accumulation that it took for Amazon, in my opinion, is going to be completely cut in half, if not even more than that. But overall, we still see those same similarities. If we're looking at Chainlink, in the same ways that we had that first mini cycle and crash, Chainlink pretty much followed the same thing. We had the first big run up. We corrected after we made our first cycle top. When we corrected back down, we pretty much fully retraced the move, just like what Amazon did here. And then out of the very bottom of that capitulation, we start that next uptrend. And we end up just pretty much creating the exact same pattern, where we're pretty much just following a lot of these same kind of ascending supports as we're building our first impulses. Because keep in mind, guys, all we're looking at down here is the beginning of an Elliott wave cycle. You have this wave 1, you have the wave 3, wave 4, and wave 5. You have this first little Elliott wave cycle, and then you get the final capitulation, A, B, and C. Retest that trend line again. This is similar to like the COVID dip, right? Where we were starting to uptrend, everybody thought we were breaking out, and then you get that final capitulation all the way back down to the trend line. And in my eyes, that's exactly where Chainlink just had that last correction. When we went and we made this next big breakout, everybody was looking at us breaking out and actually holding above this level here. We can see that we made a lower high, rejected, and then that was where we fell once again to that final trend line retest. Now, because of all of this correction, so many people are just writing off Chainlink entirely. They've looked at this coin as it's kind of just stayed below those prior all-time highs and really done not much compared to maybe some of the meme coins or maybe compared to some of the AI coins. But overall, when we're looking at the date and time that we've been at the bottom of this accumulation, this would have been the peak low over in here. If we're coming to pretty much where we're at, we're sitting at basically 1,300 days inside of this accumulation. So in the same ways that it took about 7 years worth of an accumulation, I do believe that crypto having a 3-year bottom formation throughout this entire period is relatively the same. Because when we're looking at this, if this is a 7-year correction, crypto's a 24/7 market, stock markets are half that. So we're pretty much looking at this being a 7-year correction, this being a 3-year correction. So it's all virtually the same. All of these patterns are the same. The time frames are much more expansive in stocks, but when we actually add the rate at which crypto develops over a 24-hour period versus a 12-hour period, it makes sense that a 3-year correction is virtually the same as a 7-year correction because the time difference in between. But the big thing I want you guys to be aware of is what happened after the ending of this correction. When we had that final retest that came down, triggered this trend line for the third time, it was instantly that we saw the breakout. And this is honestly what I am anticipating, where we had this resistance right here. We were kind of rejecting off of it every time we made an impulse. But when we can tell that we've hit the new stage of an impulse, when the market begins to go more parabolic, you're going to have this parabolic trend, right? Notice how we're impulsing, wave 1, wave 3, wave 4, wave 5. All of this is just a beginning stages of an uptrend, and that's why we can kind of see this beginning channel forming. However, when you get the breakout of a channel, when the market goes parabolic and actually breaks above the range high of a channel, that means that the market's about to go into an even further degree of a parabolic rally. And that's exactly what we can see over here in the Amazon chart. The second that we retest that trend line, Amazon broke back up. We not only were retesting the prior all-time highs as new support, being over in here, but we were also retesting the range high as far as our accumulation trend. We were retesting the top of that as support as well. So this was a major support and resistance flip. And when I'm looking over here at Chainlink, I do see the scenario for pretty much the same thing, right? We have this same sort of parabolic channel that we've been building inside of. However, the only difference is it's going to have to be a little bit more parabolic, right? Where maybe it ends up kind of pumping and we get that breakout, and then this retest right over in here, this is the big thing that we need to be paying attention for, because it's going to act as the same type of event over here. Where notice, if we're looking at our last cycle, we have a lot of the same consolidation. Now, we have this parabolic trend, this channel that's building. We need to break above the top resistance of that to confirm the next parabolic trend. But at the same time, we also have our cycle top, and it's very similar to what we see over in here. We have this blow off top period, but then when we came back down, we were pretty much in contact with the same level of resistance that the price has already reacted to a number of different times. So this was just kind of deviation from that trend. When the market started correcting, in my opinion, our true resistance or support is actually going to be right here at this $35, $36 range. So in my opinion, what happens next for Chainlink and what's going to start that third degree of our kind of parabolic trend, in my opinion, is going to really revolve around when it finally breaks out of not only the prior all-time high resistance, but also this channel resistance right in here. Because if we're going to see Chainlink go into a further degree of a parabolic rally, in my opinion, it all revolves around both of these points, because we're going to ultimately come back into contact with the same sort of rising channel resistance. And when we come into contact with that, if we were to reject, in my opinion, there really isn't another option unless we came all the way back down to this trend line once again. And I don't lean toward that being the likely scenario, considering if Chainlink only ever comes back up to this resistance and we only tag kind of the range highs from that last cycle, in my eyes, Chainlink is a complete failure, and it won't stick around long term to go through another accumulation. I do firmly believe that what we're going to see with altcoins is a really big rally once they finally start. The thing is we've been suppressed throughout all of this time. This is the beginning and the accumulation. We've been, 1,300 days approximately, almost a full 4 years inside of this consolidation. So in my eyes, once that pressure is kind of lifted off and we see what alt season is going to be, Chainlink has a real opportunity of front running a lot of these markets, because this is the institutional cycle and we never have had more primed cryptos than really what you see with Chainlink. Don't get me wrong, Ethereum, Solana's, there's other good cryptos out there. But as far as what is the backbone of DeFi, you can't really look any further than Chainlink. And I've always viewed DeFi itself as kind of being the epicenter for where the institutional money was going to gravitate. So the idea that all the institutional money is now here, we're going to see all of this influx of new liquidity, and then we're also going to see kind of the retail wave that follows shortly after. I don't really think that you can find a safer pick in DeFi than Chainlink, maybe Aave, one of those two things. But really, Chainlink has been a focal point in my portfolio. It's a focal point in other people's portfolios in my groups. And I've always told you guys that if you're looking for safe picks, you really can't go any further than Chainlink. And I think that we're really at that final moment where, the market's finally starting to catch a bid. Bitcoin's breaking out, making that next run into price discovery. ETH is finally starting to break back out. And in my eyes, once ETH is fully broken out and we see it start to kind of rally back up towards its resistance and range highs, that's where you're going to see Chainlink do the same thing, because a lot of people don't realize Chainlink was performing really well throughout all of these periods. And it was in fact this rally here that it pumped super hard because President Trump was actually allocating Chainlink to his own portfolio for the Liberty Finance project. So the idea that your very own sitting president is accumulating with his DeFi project, Chainlink, and it's one of their biggest holdings outside of ETH, I mean, you really can't get any more of an obvious buy opportunity. And when I zoom out and look at the cycle charts, it makes me excited, guys, because this is more along the lines of what we're going to be looking at here. We're looking at something truly life-changing, where this market's going to go super parabolic, and we could very easily be looking at $100 plus Chainlink. And this is what I'm leaning towards, guys. I've been very clear about what I believe happens in this cycle between the institutions, between the retail FOMO, and all in between. Now that ETH is breaking out, now that all the other markets are going to start following suit, I really think that we should be paying attention to Chainlink, because it's one I don't see too many people talking about, but I'm extremely bullish on this setup, and it looks almost identical to the Amazon fractal. And really, guys, if we zoom out at what happened to Amazon, this thing is still going to this day. We're still all the way up here near all-time highs, and it still looks like it wants to go even higher. So the idea that all of these other markets like Chainlink and some of the altcoins that are going to be doing some very serious work inside of Web3 and the smart contract space in general, I don't think that you can go any further than this. And when we're zooming out here over the end of this year and we see something like this having had taken off, and we maybe see $100 plus Chainlink, don't say that you were surprised or caught off guard, because I tried to warn you that this is one of the safer picks in the market. So guys, if you did find any value in that, please do me a favor, hit the like, comment, and subscribe button. If you guys want to see anything I'm investing in over this cycle, where any type of altcoin picks that we're buying, selling, trading right now before this big run, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up for my private group. You're going to be able to get total access to anything I'm doing with my portfolio, when I'm going to be buying, and most importantly, when I sell and take profits on all of my crypto investments this cycle. If you guys want to be able to follow along with that, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. I love you, I appreciate you guys, and I look forward to catching you guys in the next one. Thank you for the support. With that being said, peace out.